Hi, Joy. How are you this evening?
Pretty good. How have you been?
I'm fantastic. Yourself? Good holiday. Happy New Year.
Good holiday, yes.
Okay, good deal. Did you stay
Yeah.
able to watch fireworks at all?
Oh, we always do. We can see it from our one bedroom, so we always set up in there and set the alarm in case we doze off.
That's nice.
So we're able to see them. The cloud cover was a little bit higher than I wanted, but you could still really see them.
Well, we are waiting for Susan Presley to walk down. She was trying to join via Zoom because she was under the impression that we were not meeting in person this evening. So she's headed down, and we should be able to make pretty quick work of all this. There's nothing being heard, as it were.
No, I noticed that there's not an MCAC.
Okay, she just tried to call me.
Okay.
I think it was an accident, actually. Okay, no problem. We're fine. It's going to be a very short meeting this evening. Yeah. Okay, that was just her. She's going to be here in just a minute or two.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah, right.
I like hard eaters. Yeah.
So is your boiler still working in your house? Yeah. The one up on the hill finally gave out. The one in the house they built right after the Second World War. Yeah, that boiler finally gave out. So
What does it do when it gives out? Did it just not work then, or does it?
Those old cast iron boilers, the leaves, what's called the leaves in between them, discussions.
Oh.
And so when my grandfather built the house right after the Second World War, and then he also built the house where Tammy and Eric live, he did in-floor radiant heat. The house he built up on a hill in 1946 has in-floor radiant heat built to the hillside with a sod roof.
Wow.
It was state of the art when it came to its engineering, and probably so by today's terms.
Will you be able to replace it in something similar, or do you have to redo the whole thing?
No, they put in a high-end modern boiler, and you can put in what's called dielectric unions that isolate the metal from the copper. And then what's nice is that the modern boilers are about the size of a backpack, and you can replace your regular hot water heater with what's called a water arm. So you can never use enough. You could take a shower for 3 hours and never use it.
Yeah, if you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But that's good.
Which is all right with me. So
Yeah. Oh, good. That's always in the winter when things go out.
well, I'm surprised actually it lasted that long, but
Yeah, World War II was a while ago.
well, the story goes is that after the Second World War, they had to retool everything. So there was only so many materials available, and they had to order pipe in order to do it in everybody's name in the family, including the dog. So they could get enough pipe to make it happen.
Good stories.
I know I got a lot of them.
Yeah. Are you writing any of them down?
I am working on that actually. So I am probably going to apply for a match grant, because I have come to the realization that I literally have hundreds of photographs and documents, and I have never been able to. I've never had the time or the effort to put them all together and scan them. And they're starting to deteriorate now, particularly ones with the National Forest. But I have probably 100 photographs of the Keithley area starting from 1919 to the present. But I mean, I have pictures of all the buildings under construction, and
that would be good to preserve, and then you could always tape different stories and then have someone transcribe a lot for you.
I mean, I have a tremendous amount of documentation and stories and stuff, but I'm going to bring it in as I'm going to have everything copied and cataloged and then saved through the Heritage Center. And then I'm going to put together a pamphlet and a couple of books. And
That's
because
exciting.
doing the stories is easy enough. I'm just not an archivist. It's not what I do. I mean, I just break out with, I got these big old huge giant books like this that are 4 inches thick that just have all these photographs in them. And
Yeah, you're gonna need to get those digital. Yeah.
it's pretty wild stuff. I have photographs of Cheyenne Canyon from like 1914, 1915, where there wasn't a tree up there. And then when my grandfather died, I found my great grandfather's hand journal that tells every single tree of the 25 million trees where they were planted on Pikes Peak
Wow,
by species and by area.
that's invaluable. I love hearing stuff like that, Doug.
Pretty groovy.
Yeah, it is.
Got thrown away too. Nobody knew what it was until we opened it up and started reading it.
Yeah,
So, okay, well, everyone, welcome to the January 4th, 2023 regular meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission, Manitou Springs. 5:30, of course, is our new time. And of course, the Preservation Commission is composed of commissioners appointed by City Council, and we are volunteers. I am going to start off by saying we have a very short evening, or a short meeting this evening. We have no public agenda items to hear. And I am going to skip some of the formalities and just so we can get straight to work. But we will go through our regular order, and so that way we can satisfy our quasi judicial criteria. So first, I would like to ask for a approval of minutes from the December 7th meeting.
I'd like to clarify the minutes if I could.
because I didn't see them.
Yes, and I do apologize. I had intended to upload the minutes when I published the agenda, and it just didn't quite happen that way. And so, and I did get the email, but I didn't get the email until midday today, and it was just too late. So you'll see them as part of your next packet. I do apologize for that confusion.
Well, Hannah, you have been busy with some code things going on, so I think it's
Right, my head was a
understandable.
little bit elsewhere, but we'll get on track.
It's reassuring because I kept looking, thinking it was me, and then I realized it probably wasn't. So that's good.
And are there any changes or comments on the December 7th minutes? We haven't seen them. I
We haven't
see.
seen them.
Well, I normally don't take issue with stuff of it, so we're going to go ahead and table that until next meeting. And of course, we have no unfinished business, and we have no new business to hear this evening. Our other business is the Historic Resource Survey RFI responses. I reviewed those, and I'm going to go ahead and have Hannah do a quick review of that, and then we can go to comments.
Great. Thank you, Chair Edmondson. For the record, Hannah Van Nimwegen with the Manitou Springs Planning Department. Let me get my screen shared real quick. I have a very lengthy presentation for everyone. It's all of 4 slides, but let me get that up. Okay. So we are here to chat about the Historic Resource Survey. As you guys know, we did post a RFI, which is short for Request for Information, and we did receive a decent amount of response. 6 responses is not anything to turn your head at. So I think that's great. And what we learned from those 6 responses, 2 of them I thought were incredibly informative. I won't say what firms those were from, but they did provide a detail on how much they would charge by, or for what subdistrict, which high priority subdistricts. And the other one provided a cost breakdown specifically for the log cabin district. And really what that showed us is that the costs for getting these areas surveyed, it's not necessarily dependent on how many properties are being surveyed. So Chelsea put it really well that there's economies of scale that definitely play in here. So just because there's 140 properties, surveying just a quarter of that wouldn't necessarily mean that $100,000 would then, you could have or quarter that, and then we survey a quarter of the property. So it isn't quite how it works. So we did learn that, which does tell us that we probably should go for a full subdistrict. But according to those 2 responses, there are 2 subdistricts that we could survey for $25,000. And that being the Via subdistrict or the Log Cabin subdistrict. And I don't think that's a huge surprise to us, but it did reaffirm what we were thinking. So this is just a quick map of the Via subdistrict. Notably in this subdistrict, we're looking at Briarhurst Manor, Blue Skies Inn, Craftwood, One Ledge Historic Lodge, Sun Mountain Center, Chamber of Commerce, and there are a couple of residential properties in here as well. One of the responses identified that they could survey this for between 25 and 30 is what I recall.
Mhm.
And the other one being the Keithley Log Cabin District. Doug, I know you're very familiar with this area, but this is largely residential. However, there is the Crystal Park Cantina, Flying Pig Farm is here, as well as the Cheyenne Village / McLaughlin Lodge. Cheyenne Village was part of a survey that was done just this previous year. So one of the firms does have a jumping off point because they've already done work on this particular district. But in that response, they did say that they felt that this should be the highest priority. And they had also prepared our historic resource survey plan. So they have a good amount of knowledge of Manitou and this area in particular. That's all that I was going to present, but mostly what we were hoping to get out of tonight is our actual grant application is due later this month. And what we were hoping to put into that grant application is some specifics on what we would be surveying. So I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page and supportive of tackling what we personally feel one of these 2 districts being really important and being within reach of tackling with a $25,000 grant. And that this project, if that grant is received, would be kind of a proof of concept to ask for a match for one of those areas that could cost up to $150,000 to survey. So with that, I'm looking for any feedback, any particularly strong feelings, thoughts, concerns, ideas, anything you guys have to share.
Hannah, can you do me a favor and flip back to the villas subdistrict map? What
Yeah.
that covers? Okay, all right. Thank you. That's cool. You can just hold it there if you want. I know what the other one looks like. Well, commissioners, do you have any comments on this?
Maybe just one question for Hannah. When you go out for an RFP, will it be just one district, or would you say it could be either the Vias or the villas or the log cabin?
Right. That's a great question. So we were thinking that it would be for one district so that we could tailor the grant to be for one district and then the RFP to be as specific as possible for one district. However, I think we could go about it where we're still on the fence. I just don't know how that would work with our grant.
So some of the feedback that we got on our preliminary grant draft was that we really needed to pick a district. We could probably still float the idea of, either or, but I think it would be in our best interest to kind of decide and move forward. And especially considering that the feedback we got during the RFI process is that these 2 districts are pretty similar cost-wise. I don't think there's a huge benefit to us kind of standing on the fence any longer.
I agree with that. I'm always torn because when I saw all the areas, I want them all done, and being pragmatic and realistic, it wouldn't. It's hard because the villas there's not a lot of building going on in there, but it could happen. The cabins, we know a lot about them, yet there's going to be development in the near future. So I guess I could go along with either one. If I had to choose, I might choose the villas just because we have a lot on the cabins and they're partially protected. The villas aren't, but then which needs more protection or preservation? What do other people think?
And I do think it's worth noting too, in the Villa Subdistrict, there are two properties that are currently for sale, which
Oh.
is Briarhurst and Blue Skies.
I hadn't
so-
thought of that, yeah.
And I don't know anything about a potential buyer or potential end land use or what an intent would be, but that is happening.
Blue Skies
right now.
is opted
It's
out.
a large, Briarhurst has a large
By the way,
area.
unless they have a new owner, then it'll get put back in. But
Right.
just as an FYI,
What's that? What's that?
it is not contributed, it is not.
What is?
Sally opted out of the historic district.
Oh, the Blue Skies?
Well, opting out is irrelevant if you have a new owner. However, I don't think Blue Skies would qualify as a historic contributing.
Absolutely.
Uh,
They have one
building.
of the oldest structures, if not the
Oh, are
oldest
they?
structure in Manitou.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
barn or the.
Oh, it was the
Yeah,
barn.
it was the
Thank
old
you.
Carriage house for the.
Thank you for the
carriage house, yeah.
clarification.
Yeah,
I
because the
forgot.
carriage house survived the flood
Mhm.
and the original bell house
Okay.
was destroyed in the flood of 1886 or whatever it was.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
fire.
But Hannah,
Fire.
correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is when a property that's opted out changes ownership, that negates the opting out.
Right, it brings
does.
it back in.
Okay.
It does.
Yeah, that's
It
correct.
Thank
does.
you. I just want to double check that.
That's
And
good to know.
I know through the grapevine a little bit from the Chamber of Commerce that there is a couple that is looking at to purchase the Briarhurst and basically carry it on as the venue it is. I think it could probably use a fresh leaf as they, as for the interest of the property historically. And I think some of us all remember Ziggy Kraus and what he had done for the Briarhurst in this community and
And
And-
he wants to retire, poor guy.
who's Ziggy? He's been gone.
Healy.
Oh, yeah, he does. Well, they, I mean, anything that could be done with the Briarhurst property would be down the road, for them to subdivide and so on and so forth. And I mean, that's all floodplain. It's, it reads like a grocery list, the problems that property presents when it comes to future development outside of the fact that that's one of the most historic properties in the city. And it's Segway and it's connect with the founding fathers of the area. So, I looked over all the RFIs, read them fairly thoroughly outside of, full resume profiles and things of that nature. One of the things about this is like the villas is easy. It would be quick. They have a strong pedigree. There's not many buildings. But one of the things I see with this, and then again, of course, we know a lot about log cabins. I mean, I'm kind of torn with this because I don't know if I should recuse myself. This doesn't have any sort of financial or personal gain for me. I have no skin in the game when it comes to that. But one of my strong feelings I have about this, as we all know, that the McLaughlin Lodge / Cheyenne Village property is going to have some development. All of the lots that are being proposed in that area will now have to be heard by us as a body for MCACs because they are inclusive of the historic district. And I think having the best information we can to guide these new buildings that are going to be built in those areas is important. There's a lot of folks that are in the log cabin district that have a really strong sense of stewardship. And I think new owners coming into the area may want to have that. The villas, I think, will probably be easy too. I mean, $25,000 seems pretty steep to me for the villas. It's just such a short list, and their history is so. I mean, I'm not going to say brief because there's some older buildings, but it's not like they've had a lot of owners over the years, Go ahead.
One other thing that we learned in the RFI process is that there are two different levels of the surveys, and the villas, however that's pronounced, those properties would all get the intensive level survey. Whereas in the log cabin, about 90% of them would get the reconnaissance level survey, which is a lesser level of survey. So that does adjust for the price a little bit.
Yeah, because the intent said they're gonna search all the records up in Denver too.
Right. Well, again, you know, the Keithley, the log cabin district, there's not, I mean, at least in my mind, much to it. Because, you know, even in my family's living memory, we remember when there was nothing up there. So I'm going to leave the decision. I'm going to I will allow the commissioners to make the decision on what sub-district they feel should be done first. And I will go along with their decision since I don't want to be too dissuaded by this. But I am going to make some comments about the RFIs that I saw. Of course, the first one, Felsberg, Holt, and Ulvrig. I'll get it right one of these days. Jake Lloyd was part of that, and I remember speaking with him and meeting with him. The thing I liked about them the most was the structure of their fee proposal, and they had it broken down by what member of the group would be performing what task and how many hours they felt would be involved with that. I really appreciated that instead of just a blank number of this was coming from here or there. I think that also allows for us to, as the project develops, to target certain areas of the project that we feel needs more attention than others. So
I think we have to be, I think we have to be careful. I think we have to be careful about discussing one of them when all four or six put it in, and there'll be a committee to decide. I think we have to be careful.
Well, they did, but there were three of them that didn't even throw out numbers. There was one, I think that was, I think it was Paleo, that you had to look up the project and start looking at its budget. And it just, I was going there and I was just getting into a rabbit hole. And quite frankly, I got tired of staring at my computer for a half an hour to try to find out where the numbers were on that. You know, I think as a starting project, the economy is one thing. You know, if Logan Simpson came in with this, you know, a number between 30 and 70,000, and you know, Mead and Hunt's really good. I know some of their work. I've spent a lot of time in the Highlands area of Denver and on the South Santa Fe Avenue area, watching its developments and its redevelopment over the last decade, and what's been done in there as far as preservation. And everything's been really wonderful. Their engagement with the city of Denver is the Latin Quarter, as it would be, for lack of better references, in the Denver area. They did a tremendous amount of work to help preserve that. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. I think the numbers thing is besides that. But as far as the commissioner's decision on what to do, what sub-district, I'm just going to follow your lead. And that's all I got tonight. Take a drink of water.
Chair, I have a couple of points, and I agree with Commissioner Porter that we're not evaluating the organizations who submitted the RFIs at this point. That would be an exercise for when we get an RFP from our consultants. But I did want to ask one thing about the RFIs. I know one of the goals that was stated for our planning department was to have timelines. I didn't see timelines on anybody's proposal RFI. Did you have more information, or are we just going to go without that component?
Yeah, that's a great point. So I didn't see any timelines in any of the RFI responses either. And Chelsea didn't see any either. So that'll be something when we move forward to an RFP that we'll have to be extremely explicit that that's what we're asking for, in addition to all the other stuff. But yeah, I was surprised to not really see that as well. So that's still a question mark for me.
Sometimes I know folks submitting things don't necessarily give you exactly what you're asking for, and that's part of the criteria for deciding down the road. But I'm sure they will give us more information when we specifically request that. I will kind of echo Chair Edmondson's comments. My feeling is, while I would love to see the villas, I feel like just based on the activity we've been seeing in front of this commission in the last year, and knowing there is a big property to be developed, that the log cabin district might warrant the survey, the application of this grant money, just because we're seeing so much renovation in that area and upgrading right now. And that's really the basis for me, besides the fact that we know, yes, we're going to have significant new building going in there too, which may or may not be relevant to this intensive survey, but certainly more information about that district, just because it seems to be so active at the moment, would be kind of my suggestion or my preference.
And for different reasons, I do also think that we ought to do the log cabin district. I think we've made great inroads already, and we ought to finish that. So I would agree that that's probably our highest priority.
And
I would too. It's just like Dotton and I,
Yeah.
finishing. Yeah.
I think it gives us more, when they come to us for changes or the windows and all the things that we deal with, it'd be nice to have something to fall back on as our reasons of why we're not doing something. I certainly would go with a log cabin and hopefully do more with more funding later.
And I apologize, I should have jumped in when we were talking about timelines. I do believe that the grant is good through the end of 2024, should it be awarded. So that will light the fire, I think.
Well, that's great. I go ahead, Hannah.
I was just going to say, it sounds unanimous to me.
Okay, well, I think that once there's a contract awarded, I'm sure they'll want to move through it pretty quickly themselves. And again, with the residential occupancy of the log cabin district and its interest in its history, there will probably be a larger community outreach and interaction. And I think that will help warm the engines for what will come when we do the Midland, Agate Hill, Pilot Knob, all this stuff like that. And then off the record, of course, I will offer my services in any way I can to when they do this survey, help them out. That's for sure. So, and well, thank you very much. So I think that that's a decision. Then I think, is that a quasi judicial decision that has been made, that the RFP will be moving forward with the Keithley Cabin Subdistrict? Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, I have one other question to follow up on that. Then what is your timeline? What is the deadline for the grant application? When will we hear back from that? So that we could anticipate when the RFPs would go out.
So the grant application is due January 17th. I believe they have a 45-day decision window. So we're looking at second quarter sometime getting, I believe we can get the RFP out and do a notice of intent to award, but we can't actually award it until we get grant funding.
And again, the amount you're asking for 25,000, and there's going to be a bit of a match from the city, or is it just 25,000? Or
this grant opportunity does not require a match.
okay,
However, depending on what the bid comes back at,
sure.
we may need to look at some of a city match if we have any funds available.
Okay, and if there's a potential for a city match to do a very intensive survey for just a few thousand more, I'm sure that probably could be pretty easily justified. We hope. So. Right, yeah, did we get a discount for a bulk buy? Right, just through Costco. Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on to item 3, 2023 Saving Places Conference. Who wants to go to the party?
I've already been. Yeah,
She's too busy to go.
I have a conflict that week. I'm on vacation, but I would like to do the online option, to do it online live streaming. It's after the conference takes place, but I would very much like to take advantage of that opportunity.
When is it again?
It's February 8th through 10th.
And it's always the coldest of the entire year. that
Where's
week. I don't
it
know
at?
what is. Boulder. In Boulder.
I ain't got no.
Yeah.
It is really a lot
You
of
could go.
fun
I could
and
go.
you meet a lot of really great people.
Yeah, yeah.
I happened to, the year that I went, I nominated the Elkhorn Lodge in Estes Park, which is much older than East Stanley. And it was really great to be able to represent that property, but I highly recommend you go.
Yeah, I know. I went to one, I think that was held around Colorado Springs once. And by the way, I was a lifeguard in college days at the Stalin Hotel. And the swimming pool.
Oh.
So I know some of the tunnels under the Stanley that are pretty spooky down there.
I bet.
Yeah. So and that's an old building.
I think I went to one in 15, 16 years ago when I was doing a trolley project up in Victor. And it was held in the old Scottish Rite Temple that's on 17th and Sherman in Denver, which is actually an incredible building. But well, I would like to volunteer my services.
I think you should go.
To go to this.
I think you
And
should go. Doug, I think you should go. I'd like
Yeah.
to look at the online stuff with Susan.
How
and I-
much is the monies available? Sorry to put you on
Let
the
me
spot
pull
like
that up real quick. Online is $75, which is really reasonable, I think. But let me pull up what I allotted exactly.
That's how it covered the attendance fee and the night at the hotel.
What I recall is that I had intended to be able to send at least 3 commissioners in person.
Oh. well,
But
that's
let me
good.
double check real quick.
So it'd be 450. I believe it's 150 per person to actually attend.
Yes, I have, or there's enough money in the budget to send 3 commissioners in person and hotel with, I think, a little bit of per diem as well. But there's also, as an alternative, an on the road conference, which is where they go to another city in August. This year it's in La Junta. So that's another option too, if you don't feel like going to Boulder in February.
That would be like Ben's Ford. That was fabulous. Yeah.
you do realize that the
And
Tarantula
Kari was in-
migration is around that time.
Yeah.
That we literally talked about that.
Don't
when
start
we
that
did
again.
Yes.
Don't start that
Why?
again.
Because I've
I
been,
think the cold would be better.
and you know what happens in the tarantula migration? They come out of the bush.
I love it. Motion to move
Walk
on
right
from
across
the
road.
tarantula speak.
Yeah, motion. Yeah, let's just imagine them.
Well, I would like to attend. I will talk to my wife, because I'll probably bring her with me, and any extra expenses accrued by that, of course, I will cover. But it sounds like a good reason to get out of town in the middle of February. And of course, I will be here for the HPC meeting in the beginning of February. I believe it's probably going to be a fairly important meeting. And then I will go ahead and say something to commissioners and who else is listening is I have recently had some thoughts about potentially running for city council. But I am not sure if I'm going to do that. It kind of depends on who may be doing this. And I'm really torn because I feel that my efforts and my passion is here.
Yeah.
You agree? You don't want me to run for council, do you? No. Well, good. I'm glad I got a nay. I like it when people don't want me to do something. Yeah. Okay, good. Well, I'll definitely keep that in mind. So, anyways, with that said, I'm going to continue to concentrate my efforts on educating myself and informing myself so I can be of service to the Historic Preservation Commission is to the best of my ability. Since I'm slated to be here until 2026. All right.
Okay, so I understand, Susan, you're interested in online, and Doug, you're interested in being in person in Boulder. So we will
Yes.
get that booked.
And then Hannah, I would be interested in the online.
Okay, and Joy and Ann, you are also interested in online.
Yes.
It's
And then Doug would be our point person.
I would be the point person. I promise I'll wear a suit and a tie.
Well,
And-
don't go too far.
You just have to carry around everyone on Zoom with
Yeah,
your,
Do I?
Yeah.
yeah.
There you go. I'll do the max headroom thing,
Right.
Yeah.
you know. There you go. And also I'd like to ask real quick, like we used to, or I have not for a while, received a prompt for some of the online tutorials that we get occasionally, usually Wednesdays from noon to 1:30. There's like recently I did one about 2 months ago on the restoration of stone and brick facades.
Okay.
Haven't seen anything like that recently. Have you, as soon as you guys get those in, I sure do enjoy those.
Okay.
and Doug, I have I don't think I shared it, but I have a group that go generally from 12 to 1. And they probably will have all those kinds of seminars. I started those a while ago before we changed some of the things, but it has a lot. And they'll start sending in January again, and I could send them to Hannah so she could put them out to the group.
Yeah, pass them on, please.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Joy.
Okay.
And those webinars were from History Colorado?
No,
Okay.
there's some from history. This was from a architectural firm that does preservation. And
Yes,
it was given to us, I think, by the past planner. That's how I first heard of it.
Okay. I'll make sure our contact info is up to date and then we'll continue doing that.
Okay.
And then Tamala, I understand that you'll double check your schedule and let me know. Okay.
okay, so we've got a solid 3, and now Joy, you want to attend via Zoom also?
Yes, I had said that. Yes.
Okay, so we got 3 Zooms, 1 in person and a potential 4. So, and it sounds like the budget's there for that, which is great. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and move on. Do we have a notice of any council action? Is anything happening at the city council that outside of budget approvals?
Not directly related to the Historic Preservation Commission, no.
Okay, very good. Well, I'm
Although
good.
I should say, so last night was the review of the Land Use and Development Code. And out of that came a significant change to the appeals process. So pretty soon here, you'll probably see an ordinance come forward from us about updating the Historic Preservation Commission appeals process. And at a future meeting, I'll dive into the specifics of that, and then you'll actually have language to review. So just a heads up, that's probably coming down the pipeline.
And Hannah, can you also share at that time how the lighting might affect the historic lighting code?
Oh, right.
Because I know we have certain things, but it sounds like the cities is going to be more really fairly strict on keeping the dark skies.
Right. So in the new land use code is, it doesn't really exist in the current zoning code, but actual regulations and standards for exterior lighting to get us closer to dark skies compliant or dark sky compliance. And one of the main things that was talked about last night was the fact that the city's streetlights are not dark sky compliant. So there's going to be future conversations on how we can actually get there.
Noticed that.
Yeah, and so that might be coming up, and then how it relates to historic districts may be something that we need to have a future chitty chat about. If it affects anything, yeah.
Thanks, Hannah.
But I would like to invite you all to join me in congratulating Hannah in getting the Land Use and Development Code passed last night unanimously. So
7-1, it was pretty amazing.
Hard work there. Yeah, very good, Hannah. I know it's been a little bit of a bumpy ride at that level when it comes to getting things through. That's for sure. All right, well, I believe that is all we have for this evening's meeting. The January 4th, 2023 regular meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission is now closed.
Well, it was nice seeing everyone. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, Chelsea.
Good. Okay,
Thanks,
all
Joy.
right.
It was good to see you.
Okay.